Hi, this is Mike making my video to add to my collection. Today's 4/18/2025. It's 11:09 a.m. Yeah. So anyway, I'm making this video to pretty much say what I gotta say. You know, uh, there's three things: the pride of life, the desire of the eyes, and the desire of the flesh. Uh, that's pretty much the main components of what governs uh, a man or a woman in your pursuit of happiness. But then there's the hidden world, you know, the whole side of yourself that doesn't get revealed until you're ready to let go and, basically deny yourself and deny the flesh. Deny the pride of life, lose your ego and, more or less not desire anything, not possess anything, and not know anything. You don't lean on your own understanding. So, with that being said, it's actually a pursuit uh, that you're pursuing the hidden things, the hidden meaning of things, the underlying cause. Uh, and then when you get to that point, when you let go of everything, it's one of the hardest decisions you could ever make. But when you do it, what happens is you collapse away function and you find out that there's hidden things, like spirits, all kinds of mythological creatures, uh, and supernatural powers that you possess. And you basically get to the point where there's really nothing you can't do. Uh, and at me, I'm basically out picturing of that. Where I really have conquered everything. There is really no thing that I can't do, or haven't done rather. It's just, you know, the spirit world is something I'm not really crazy about. I think it's a lesser state of being in a lot of ways. Uh, Life isn't necessarily guaranteed eternal, and it says that this heaven and the one above it pass away. Uh, what he's saying is that those two states of being, uh, this one, eventually fades away. All your possessions, all your money, all your knowledge, and basically all your friends, all your family, they can't follow you from into the next world. Uh, and you go there and you find out that it's kind of a lonely existence. You're wandering aimlessly, and you get to the point where uh, you know you have absolute freedom, nevertheless, but you can go anywhere and observe anything basically, and you get to that point. But then this world, the carnal mind, the world that your carnal mind governs, your ego, your rational mind, I mean, of course, your creative mind as well, but those two aspects of yourself, those parts of your mind, they govern this world, and they are states of being, that uh, you know that pretty much can offer you anything that the spiritual world can offer you. So, with that being said, uh, you let go of one set of problems to gain another. You let go of one estate to gain another. You enter in, and then it's basically, uh, your spirit. So anyway, the spirit that you're in, the body, the rainbow body that you're in, can get blotted out instantly without any doubt. It's like your spiritual body can be destroyed in an instant. People think that they have eternal life and that nothing can harm you, and that's very contrary to what the truth is. Uh, so anyway, uh, that's why I'm not really totally excited about getting into the spiritual side of things. Uh, I mean, yeah, you can look younger and you can have a better form, but you know, maybe that's something I'll do later on in life. But obviously, I will, because you got to let go of your flesh body, and then you get a new garment to put on. You know. So anyway, that's really how that works. And like I say, you don't lean on your own understanding. You know nothing, and you let go of your possessions. You renounce the world, and you possess nothing. And then, of course, you don't have the desire of the eyes. You're not the desire of the flesh. You're no longer interested in sexual things, and the desire of the eyes. You don't really don't desire a lot of things anymore, and the pride of life. Your job. That's no longer in existence. So you no longer desire. You no longer run around with your title, and you let go of that title, and you destroy the ego. You humble yourself, and the poor in spirit, the heaven's domain belongs to them. So anyway, that's really all I got to say. But the thing is I'm gonna let this stretch out for 15 minutes. But like I've seen almost everything there is to see. I've done almost everything there is to do, and I became almost everything there is to become. So here I am. I'm just kind of bored, listless, and I can't seem to find anything to satisfy. It's like nothing seems to satiate me anymore. It's not that I'm being negative necessarily, but I can't seem to figure out what more there is after this. And you know, sometimes when you have that, it's actually the pursuit of happiness that makes you happy. It's not so much the end result. It's not the destination per se, but it's the journey. It's like if you think about it, you're playing a game and you spend your whole afternoon or whatever you're playing it. You're trying to acquire as many weapons as possible and as many special abilities. And then you get through the game, and then it's just like you get to the point where you've done all that. You get to the top of the mountain in the game, and you're thinking to yourself, well, you conquered the game, and it's like, what else is there? And there is nothing else. So it's like you're just standing around, and that's really more or less what it's like to in life. We're playing a very elaborate video game, and we get to the point where we understand things, and there's a lot of misery, there's a lot of depression and sadness that comes along with knowledge. So I'm kind of at the point where I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, and then I've gotten here, and there really is nothing more. Uh, there's not a whole lot left, and with that being said, it's like I have a bunch of emptiness and depression sometimes, and that's because I've met my quota per se. I've done the things I wanted to do, but there really isn't anything left. Uh, I've had a lot of women, uh, and I've had a lot of possessions. I've had a lot of money, and I've achieved a lot of things as far as what the American dream is. And then I've had a lot of education and stuff, and I've learned almost everything there is to learn. And experientially, I've pretty much experienced everything I wanted to experience. you know, and because of that knowledge that I've attained, because of the experiences I've been through, you know, a picture says 1,000 words, and then, you know, basically I got to the point, you know, now where it's just like I feel kind of empty, and that's because, you know, there's nothing left, and, you know, I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve, and, you know, what else, you know, if you think about it, we have all these neural networks and stuff like that, and our reward centers in our brain, you know, it's like sometimes, you know, those reward centers get burned out, and you get kind of a burnout feeling, and you know you're looking for a dopamine high, and you know you get to the point where there's just really nothing else that seems to satisfy. So anyway, that's kind of where what you get to. I'm 55 years old. You know, I got grandkids. I got kids. I was married. I had a house, um, three houses, and millions of dollars, and you know all kinds of vehicles, cars, boats, trucks, motorcycles, and you know 4-wheeler, and you know basically that, and then you know I fixed houses, I repaired cars, I worked at an auto plant. I went to school for auto mechanics and auto body, robotics. I even started going to school for that, and then, but now I'm humble. You know, I live a simple life. I don't have a lot of uh, money I spend on going out to eat. I don't waste money. I'm frugal. And, you know, I do have a lot of possessions. You know, I'd rather have something that's tangible, something that's worth money than, you know, going out to eat or watching a movie at the movie theater or, you know, throwing money at some lost cause, you know. A woman, you know, that pretty much just wants to use me. I don't go for that. And you know, I live a simple life, you know, and I don't have a lot of expensive hobbies. I don't have horses, and you know, I don't have a fully decked out Harley Davidson and stuff like that. I just don't, and I don't have the cars that I used to. I used to have real nice cars, but you know, a lot of them needed repairs and stuff. So then, you know, I got away from that. So I cut a lot of the fat off, and I live a simple life, a lean operating system. You know, I don't obfuscate things. You know, I don't get to where things are complicated, and I'm not in a relationship. I don't have my kids anymore. I don't go back to school. You know, I don't travel. You know, I don't go out to eat, and you know, like I say, you know, I do small things, smaller things. I have easier, simpler hobbies, and I don't have expensive things that I do. I don't like spending money on things that are a waste. And you know, you think about it. You know, this whole life is just an illusion anyway. You know, there's sooner or later you got to give up the ghost, and there really isn't anything left uh, after this life. I mean, this heaven and the one above it pass away, and meaning that you know this flesh body I got to give up, but then my spiritual body at some point I think I'll have to give that up too. And then I would imagine, you know, I'd probably get born again and just repeat the process. Um, but there's really nothing I haven't seen or done, or you know, or had. And you know, I met God. I mean, that was ultimately the highest thing I could do. And he had a white robe and everything, but it's like he was massive and blue eyes and white hair and everything. But you know, he was just a man like me, a simple guy, and he was human. So anyway, that's all I got to say.